Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Complete Spanish Grammar Lesson 4. In today's video, we are finishing present tense. Finally, we are finishing the irregular conjugations in part 3. We are continuing with the Super Mario World theme. In previous videos, we saw World 1 that had 4 levels, we saw World 2 that had 5 levels, and finally, we are seeing World 3 that has 16. But 16 verbs, not actually levels. Last video I said that they were 11 plus 4 equals 15, but in reality I just added one more. It's going to be 16 verbs that you have to actually remember. In the very first part, we're going to be seeing the go verbs. Now, these go verbs do not really have a relation with the go verb in English. It's just that they have an irregularity in the job form where you need to add the go sound, go. The very first one is going to be salir, to go out. So when you conjugate salir, you're actually conjugating go out. I go out. There is no need for a out word, so you're not going to be saying salir afuera because that's a redundancy. So you would say yo salgo, and there you have the go sound. Salgo. You get rid of the ending, and you substitute the ir for go. The next two conjugations or the next conjugations are going to be regular ones. So you just say sales and él sale. In these go verbs, the irregularity is mainly in the job form. And I say mainly because the last 4 verbs are a little bit special. I like to put them in pairs. So when you have these 2 verbs, they behave the same. They have an L behind the ending, so you actually conjugate it similar. So salir was salgo, valer is going to be valgo. Then for the to and for the he form, it actually goes the same. Vales and vale. The next one is poner. Poner is going to be conjugated as pongo. You keep the N and then you introduce the GO. So it's going to be yo pongo. For the to and for the he form are going to be normal conjugations. So tú pones, él pone. Hacer, to make, and also to do. This is one of those occasions where in English you have 2 verbs and we only have 1 verb. This is quite the opposite of the verbs ser and estar, where you actually have 2 verbs in Spanish for what you only have 1 to be in English. So hacer, you will conjugate it as hago. This one actually gets rid of the last 3 letters, CER, but you substitute it for a GO. So yo hago. The to form and the el form remain the same. Tú haces, él hace. The rest of the conjugations remain the same as well. The next one is traer. And this is the very first one of the last 4 verbs. They are special because they need to be seen a little bit different. So traer means to bring. When you conjugate it, you will not say trago, but you actually say traigo. Traigo. The reason for the I there is because if you conjugate it without the I, the verb would say just trago. But trago is actually the conjugation of the verb tragar. Tragar means to swallow. So it wouldn't work because you would have 2 verbs for the same conjugation. So in this case, you add the I and then go. Traigo. Tú, él, nosotros, and ellos remain the same. So tú traes, él trae. Caer is the one that is really similar to traer. Caer means to fall. And you don't conjugate it as cago because cago means to poop. And actually, you need to conjugate it differently. So you need to add the I, just like you did with traer. So it's not going to be cago, but caigo. Yo caigo. For the to and the el form is going to be caes and él cae. The next 2 is tener and it's going to be conjugated as tengo. You remove the ER and you add GO. So yo tengo. For the to and for the L form is where the irregularity appears. It's not going to be tenés, but it's actually tienes. For L is tiene. So the irregularity actually remains. These irregular verbs, these go verbs and these semi-irregular verbs and also the total irregular verbs, I like to think that they are actually verbs that were expelled from their community because they were different. And tener belong to the category of the inverted triangle in the very first level of that triangle, where you change the E for the IE, but because it had a go at the very beginning of the conjugation of the job form, it was expelled. They said, well, you don't belong to this category, get out of this community. So these all these go verbs form their own community, and there you have the go verbs. The last one from the go verbs is going to be venir. Venir means to come, and it was expelled from the same exact community than tener. So when you say I come, it's going to be yo vengo. But when it comes to tú or él, it's going to be vienes and viene. So it keeps the E for the IE irregular. World. The next level is going to, the next verbs are going to be the semi-irregular verbs. Now, they call them semi-irregulars because there is no other way to call them. They don't really have a logic. You just have to remember them because they conjugate differently in the job form. Once more, the to and the L form and the rest of the conjugations are going to be the same, but there is no constant in the job form. That's why they are called the semi-irregular ones. I would call them actually the semi-total irregulars because they are not completely irregular, but they are just not following any rule. So the very first one is the verb give. To give is going to be dar. The logical thing would be to say yo do, but no, it's actually yo doy. Yo doy. The tú and the el form keeps the normal conjugation. Tú das, él da. Ver, see, is going to be veo. It keeps the E and you just add the O. The tú form is conjugated the regular way. So tú ves and él ve. Saber, to know, is going to be conjugated not with sabo, but actually yo sé. That sé has a tilde or an accent mark on top of the E for the only purpose of not confusing it with another SE word. It's not really an accent that you need to emphasize, so you don't need to pronounce it like sé. No, it's just sé. It's just a mark to make it different from other words. When it comes to tú or él, they behave the same. Tú sabes, él sabe. The last one is caber. And when you think of this verb, well, I want you to imagine that he was expelled from his community because it was so different. It's like this guy from the movie 300.
I am sorry, my friend. But not all of us were made to be soldiers.
Caber is conjugated quite different. Many people, included kids, will pronounce it as cabo because of the logical conjugation rules. But in reality, it's not actually cabo. It's going to be quepo. Yep, it's quepo. Now you just need to remember this one. There is no way to learn the rule because you will need to see how it went through time and its conjugation transformed or evolved through time. So it's going to be yo quepo as an I fit. Tú, él, nosotros, and ellos is going to be the same. Cabes, cabe. Start learning with a professional teacher. Classes are tailored according to your level. And your progress is important, so I keep track of how you're doing so you're always achieving more. Book a trial class and start your language journey now. Finally, you have the last four total irregular verbs. Luckily, they are only four. Unfortunately, you have here ser and estar, the two verbs which mean to be in English. So you have one verb for what we have two. When you conjugate ser, estar, ir, and haber, you have to remember these verbs. There is no way you can remember these ones with a shortcut, with a hacking, or with a mnemonic. It's just that you need to memorize them. So for ser, it's going to be yo soy, tú eres, él es, nosotros somos, and ellos son. For estar, you have to say yo estoy, tú estás, él está, nosotros estamos, and ellos están. Estar is the verb that I don't really agree on being total irregular. Because apart from the yo form, estás, está, estamos, and están, follow the regular AR conjugation. It's just that they have this tiny accent or the tilde on top of the A's that make estar a total irregular verb. But apart from those ones, there is not really a reason to be here in the total irregular verbs. Here, on the other hand, is quite irregular because if you conjugate ir, since it's only two letters, you would only conjugate it and put the conjugation forms. So it would be just yo o to es, el, e. But no, you actually have to conjugate it in a different way. So it's going to be yo voy, tú vas, él va, nosotros vamos, and ellos van. Finally, we have a ver. Finally, we have a ver. A ver means to have. But now, in English, you have the verb to have. And in reality, you use it for two different usage. The very first one is when you say, I have a dog, as in the meaning of possession. I have a dog. I possess a dog. The second use of have is when you use it in the construction, I have eaten. That have is used in the present perfect tense. Now, in Spanish, we have two verbs for what you arguably have one. But in the possession field, when you say I have a dog, you have to use the verb tener. So you will say, yo tengo un perro. When you say I have eaten, you will be using the verb haber. Yo he comido. That is why haber is not worth learning at this stage of the present tense because you will never use it in present. So you can decide to skip it or just learn it, but you will never use it for the very first stages.